Hey beautiful people, what is up and welcome back to my channel. I am Jamila and I love all things beauty. I love all things makeup, I love all things skincare, and I especially love finding high-end and luxury beauty products at bargain prices. As you guys already know, on my channel, I love makeup hauls, I love tutorials, get readies with me, first impressions, reviews, and all of that. But most importantly, I love sharing my tips and tricks for finding high-end and luxury beauty products at the best bargain. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, go ahead and click that subscribe button and let's dive into the video. Okay, so for today's video, I thought that because we are kind of halfway-ish through the year, I thought that I would go ahead and review my 2020 favorites. I wanted to look at the products that I thought were the best in 2020 and let you guys know how I'm feeling about them now. Am I still loving them? Am I still using them? Have I completely forgotten about them? We're gonna go through all of that. So, I pulled out all of the products that I mentioned in that video. And I put them into this basket, so I'm just going to dig into this one by one and pull out the products and start giving you all my opinions. Okay, so one of my first favorites from 2020 was the Shop Miss A Paw Paw Sponge. Now, I have raved about this sponge since 2020 and I'm still raving about it now. This, in my opinion, is the best makeup sponge there is. I use this more than my beauty blender. I reach for this so much. And I have like 3 or 4 of these 6-packs because these are extremely inexpensive. Now, by itself, the sponge is $1.55. So, y'all already know the beauty blender is $20. So this is significantly cheaper than the beauty blender. So, and I think this 6-pack is less than $10. Yeah, it's way less than $10. I'll have to put up the price for you. But this sponge performs beautifully. It is extremely soft, it doesn't absorb too much product, and it blends out the product really nicely onto the skin. So this is something I am still loving in 2021 so far. Next, let's talk about foundations. So in 2020, I was loving 2 foundations. The Urban Decay Stay Naked and the Rare Beauty, I guess it's just called the Rare Beauty Foundation. Now, you guys could probably already tell my Stay Naked foundation is almost done. And I am still loving this, especially now that we are in the summertime. This foundation is perfect. It's a matte finish, but it's lightweight. So I have been really digging into this. I will end up repurchasing another one once this one is finished. But this is definitely still a holy grail, still a favorite of mine. On the other hand, though, this Rare Beauty Foundation, oh my gosh. So, I love the finish of this Rare Beauty Foundation. If I'm being very honest, this is a serum foundation that just blends into the skin really nicely. It's probably the most lightweight foundation I have in my collection. And it doesn't look like you're wearing anything on the skin. It doesn't feel like you're wearing anything on the skin either. But what I've come to realize with this foundation is that it breaks me out. And that hurts all of my soul because I love the finish of this foundation. This is also a foundation, even though it is a serum foundation and it has a very runny consistency, it doesn't get oily. Like, I can wear this all day without needing to touch up and I don't feel like I'm an oil slick after the fact. But like I said, this makes me break out. Now, I do have oily, acne-prone skin, and this definitely brings out the acne. I have found that I can't wear this foundation more than 2 days in a row, and even if I'm wearing it one day, I feel like I need to wear it for a couple of hours. Anything longer than that, and the next day I have pimples. So, now I'm not saying that you shouldn't buy this and you shouldn't try it out, but if you have acne-prone skin, I would definitely recommend that you get a sample of this foundation, try it out first, see if your skin reacts to it or not before you go ahead and take the huge plunge. But if this doesn't bother you or cause you to break out, the finish is spectacular. It is amazing. And this is really affordable. This is less than $30. The Rare Beauty brand, as you probably already know, is a pretty affordable brand. So I don't really use it as much anymore because it breaks me out, but I still like it, I guess. Next, concealers. So there were 2 concealers essentially that I was loving in 2020. The Too Faced Born This Way concealer and the e.l.f. Camo concealer. Now, I have finished up my Too Faced Born This Way concealer and I love it. Now, I want to get a backup of it. Well, not a backup. I guess I want to get a replacement for it. But I've been trying to get it at the cosmetics company store and have not been able to find my shades. So, I haven't repurchased it just yet. On the other hand, the e.l.f. Camo concealer, this one I still have and I'm still using it and I'm really enjoying it, especially now because it is the summertime. Now, I like the Too Faced one slightly better than the e.l.f. because it is a little bit creamier and it doesn't feel as dry on the skin. But I'm really enjoying the e.l.f. right now because we are in summertime and I want something that's a little bit more matte. So this has been working out perfect for me right now. And I'm hoping that I can finish this up by the end of the summertime because I don't necessarily want to go into winter with this because y'all already know that when it comes to winter time, my skin gets really, really dry. So primers. In 2020, there were two primers that I was obsessed with. The Milk Hydrogrip Primer and the Rimmel Stay Matte. And I'm still pretty obsessed with both. Now, the Milk Hydrogrip Primer is definitely one of those primers that I think works with most of the foundations that I own. I will say that I have been reaching for this a lot less now that we're in the summertime, and I have been reaching for the Rimmel Stay Matte more because I want, again, something that's a little bit more mattifying. However, I do really enjoy both of these primers. Now, this one is almost done. It has a little chinks left, and I probably will end up getting another one of this because this is a really affordable primer and it does a really good job at keeping my more hydrating / more dewy foundations matte, which is exactly what I need now that we're in summertime and it's hot as hell. So speaking of keeping things matte, the two powders that I enjoyed in 2020 were the Sephora Microsmooth powder and the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish. And I am still in love with both of these. Now, I will say that I have a new powder that's in my faves that has kind of taken the place of my MAC. But this is still a really solid powder. This, it just kind of works. So I have still been using this. I believe I had finished one last year. So this was honestly basically a new one and it's pretty much almost halfway done. So I should be able to finish this up by the end of the year. And then the second powder, the Sephora Microsmooth. This is also a really good solid powder. And this is really affordable. I believe this is less than $20. And this is the one that I use when I'm using more light coverage foundations because it does add more coverage. So if you need a powder that you want to add a little more coverage, or honestly just a powder that you want to wear on the days when you're not doing foundation, this is a good one. If you want something that's a little bit more just kind of lightweight to set in your foundation and doesn't add more coverage, the MAC one is great. But overall, I have still been using both of these all year and I'm still very happy and very in love with them. Next, my bronzer. And this was a good old fave, and it's the MAC Coco Naughty. Now you guys can already tell I have a huge pan size here, so I've been using it, but I have not used this in a couple of weeks. I did add, if you've watched a couple of my previous videos, I did add a ton of new bronzers to my collection, and I have been reaching for those above this. Now I would like to honestly completely pan this and get rid of it, but we'll get there at some point eventually. But just thinking about the quality of this, I do still like it. I actually used it today and realized, it's a solid bronzer. I still do think that so it is a solid bronzer, but I will say that this is not a bronzer that works well for me once I get deeper in the summertime. So I don't think that this is something that I will be reaching for a ton this summer because I have a bunch of new bronzers that I think match me just a little bit better. But I mean, it works. For now, it works. Another MAC product that I was in love with in 2020 was the MAC, what is this called? The MAC Mineralized Gold Deposit Highlighter. Now this highlighter I've had for way too long and it's a beautiful highlighter. And unfortunately, I have not been reaching for this at all. And the reason why I haven't been reaching for this is because it's too deep for me. Like, it's way too dark for me right now. And maybe once we get further into summer and I have deepened up a little bit, I can go back to using this. But it's too dark of a highlighter for me to use, so I haven't been reaching for it. Is it a beautiful formula and a stunning finish? Absolutely, 100%. So if you are a deeper complexion and you want a good highlighter, I would recommend this, but it just doesn't work for me right now. Sadly, another highlighter that I loved in 2020 but haven't been reaching for as much this year is the Laura Geller, the Baked Gelato highlighter, and this is in the shade Ballerina. Now, I tried to use it this week and I don't like it. I don't know. I don't know what it is about it that I was like, why did I like this in the first place? It just, I have not been reaching for it. And when I finally decided to go ahead and reach for it again, I didn't like it. It just seemed really powdery and didn't add a highlight. It just seemed like light powder on my face, which I wasn't into. I'll give it another try and see if my feelings change and I go back to loving it. But right now, it's definitely not one that I've been reaching for. I have some other really nice highlighters. I have too much highlighters in my collection, but I have some other really nice highlighters that have been, you know, catching my attention lately. Moving right along, another product that I was obsessed with in 2020 was the Gen Nude blush. Now, this is a blush that I still love. Now, I have had to talk myself out of reaching for this blush and reach for other blushes in my collection because this is such a beautiful formula. Like, this just works. I feel like whenever I'm not sure what blush to wear with my eye look, this is the one that I find myself wanting to reach for because it just looks beautiful. It looks really natural, but gives you that nice flushed look. And I just feel like it works with all of my eye looks and all of my makeup. So I have had to, like, you know, put this to the side and reach for others. This is definitely one that I still love, definitely one that I still recommend, and really glad that it's still in my collection. Another product that I was super excited by, and kind of still am, is the Laura Mercier Loose Setting Powder. Now, I have a mini size of the translucent one. I also have a big size of the medium deep one. The medium deep is too deep for me, so I'll probably end up giving that one to my sister. The translucent one works. This powder, I feel like, is just a good powder that works. Now, I still use it to this day. I still really enjoy it to this day. I have had to, like, put it to the side so I could reach for some of my other powders. So I have been using other powders in the last couple of weeks. But this is definitely still one that I am enjoying in 2020. And my goal, I'm really hopeful that I can finish up this little mini powder by the end of the year. I am so surprised that there's so much product in here. I'm like, why is it taking so long for this to finish? I don't know. I just want to be done with it. And before we end things off with eyeshadow palettes, I want to show you guys a couple of lip products that I talked about in 2020 and let you know how I'm feeling about them now. Now, first things first, I want to talk about the Fenty Gloss Bomb. Now, this was my holy grail in 2020. I actually finished up 2 of these gloss bombs. And, you know, I haven't been reaching for this in 2021 at all. Like, I have not reached for my gloss bomb. I completely forgot about it for a while because I've been using the Mcgrath lip glosses. And then the other day I pulled it out and I was like, oh, I forgot I have like 6 of these. Because I loved them so much that I got a ton of the minis and then I had 2 full sizes. And yeah, I mean, it's a good formula. Don't get me wrong. If you want a good gloss formula, and this is $18, so not super expensive and definitely cheaper than Pat McGrath's, it's a good formula. It works. I just have been reaching for some of the newer products in my collection. So I'll have to pull this out and like throw it in my purse so I remember to keep using it. The other product that I mentioned was the Milk Lip Balm. And again, this is something that I have not been reaching for. And I don't know if it's because now that we are in like summertime and my lips aren't as dry as they were in winter that I don't need this. But I haven't been reaching for lip balms. And not just this one, any lip balms. I've been really, really into my lip glosses. So whenever I feel like I want something hydrating on my lip, I reach for a lip gloss. So this lip balm has honestly been kind of like tossed to the side. But I do want to pull it back up because this is actually a really nice lip balm. It has a slight tint to it. This is the shade Nug. It has a little bit of a tint to it. And it's very, very hydrating. I don't know if you guys can see that right here. So this is also something I will need to like throw in my purse just to make sure that I actually use it. And lastly, my holy grail, the MAC Luster lipstick in the shade Touch. Y'all, it is almost done. I have so little bit left. You know I'm obsessed with this lipstick. It's my holy grail. It's like my perfect nude. So I actually went on the hunt for this lipstick and I found it at my cosmetics company store. So I picked up 3 of these. So I have backups. You're not going to catch me out here without my Touch lipstick. So definitely one I have been loving and I don't think I will stop loving it anytime soon. And lastly, eyeshadow palettes. So I feel like last year I was just getting into eyeshadow, and my palette collection was a lot smaller. It has grown a lot. It has really, really grown a lot. But there were some gems last year that I want to dive back into and tell you guys about. So the first one that I want to talk about is the Urban Decay Born to Run palette. This was one of my first purchases in 2020, and I absolutely loved this palette. I loved how the shadows performed. I loved the shimmers. I loved the mattes. And I thought that this gave me really nice, soft, glam looks that I could wear to work. I thought it was such an amazing palette. And I liked that I could get really warm looks, but also some really cool, colorful looks here with the blues and the greens. And while I absolutely love this palette in 2020, I have not touched this palette not once in 2021. I have not picked up this palette at all. Like, yeah, I really want to dig back into this palette. And the reason why I haven't touched it is because I have all these new palettes that I've been trying. So I know that I need to put that to the side for a little bit and dig into some of my old loves. But yeah, I haven't touched this at all in 2021. So there's that. The other palette that I talked about in 2020 that I, again, have not touched in 2021 is the Alter Ego Artemis palette. Now, this is a dupe for the Natasha Denona Metropolis, which I do want to get and add into my collection. And I loved the quality of the Alter Ego shadows. The shadows had such shine and such impact. They were really high shine, and I was super impressed with it. Now, the cream to powder formula, I didn't enjoy, and I think that this was also at a time when I was just figuring out how to apply makeup and how to apply eyeshadow. So I was learning how to work with powder formulas, and then the throw in a creamy matte that just made it even harder. But what I've come to realize is that with creamy matte formulas, you need to use a denser brush to pick up the product and to blend it out. But even though I know that now, I didn't dig into this palette at all this year. I do want to go back into this because this has some of my, it has like one of my favorite color stories, period. And the shades perform really, really well. So I need to, you know, pull out this and the Urban Decay Born to Run and set these to the side in my everyday drawer so I know to use them. And the last two palettes that I mentioned in my 2020 favorites were Pat McGrath palettes. Y'all know how I feel about Mama Pat. You know. And they were my absolute favorite Pat McGrath palette, the Midnight Sun Mothership. Still obsessed with this, if you didn't already know. This is the color story of Midnight Sun. I have reached for this year multiple times because I love this palette. I'm obsessed with it. I told you guys I'm thinking about buying a backup of this. So still a favorite. If you were looking to purchase your first Pat McGrath Mothership, this is definitely the one I would recommend. But I know everyone has a preference. Go for the one that, you know, color story speaks to you the most. But this is definitely my favorite. Then the other palette, the other Pat McGrath palette that was in my favorites was one of her quads. This is one of her Blitz Astral quads, so it is her special formula for all 4 shades. And this was actually my first Pat McGrath palette. I purchased this from Sephora because it was on sale for 50% off. And it is a beautiful neutral color story. And I used this a ton last year because you get really simple looks. And on the few occasions that I went outside, this was the palette that I was reaching for. And it's still a palette that I reach for in 2021. Especially when I'm like looking to go out to a nice dinner, whatever the case is. And I don't want a colorful eyeshadow. I want something that's a little glam, a little glitzy, but still in the neutral space. This is the one that I reach for. And even though this is her special shades, just all 4 of them, I could use this deep brown as a matte. So I could actually create a full look using just this quad. And I can use these 2 shades as matte shades because they blend out like that. So I am still, you know, using this quad a lot and loving it as I love all of Mama Pat's palettes. Okay, so that's it. Those were all of the products that I talked about in my 2020 favorites, and that's where they kind of stand in 2021 right now. This was a lot of fun to do because it showed me, you know, how makeup opinions can change over time. It also reminded me of products that I fell in love with that I really should go ahead and play with some more. And I'm looking forward to digging back into some older products. Now, if you liked this video, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. Leave a comment down below and letting me know if there are products from your 2020 favorites that have kind of like shifted and are no longer favorites, or if you're still using them. As always, make sure you guys subscribe and make sure you share. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you guys in my next one. Bye.